Dr. Richard Dick Woods is an Emeritus Professor and former Chair of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He was officially a member of the Michigan faculty from 1967 through 2002. I say officially because Dick is still teaching courses even this semester and conducting 2 research projects 10 years after retiring. Professor Woods received his bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Notre Dame and his Ph.D. in 1967 from the University of Michigan under the directorship or direction of F.E., better known as Bill Richard Jr. All of his degrees are in civil engineering. Professor Woods' research interests have been centered on foundation dynamics, vibration measurements, blasting and other vibration damage, measurements of dynamic properties, site characterization for seismic mitigation, and applications of geophysics in geotechnical engineering. He co-authored with F.E. Richard and J.R. Hall the seminal textbook on soil dynamics titled Vibrations of Soils and Foundations in 1970, and the NCHRP synthesis on dynamic effects of pile installations on adjacent structures in 1997. Dick has published over 100 papers and reports on his research and consulting activities. In 1997, Professor Woods was the ASCE's Terzaghi Lecturer and delivered at the ASCE convention in Minneapolis what will forever be remembered as the odd-even slide projector malfunction lecture. For those of you who were there, you know that this was a time when 2 slide projectors were used to project alternate slides, and one of the slide projectors went awry. Dick went to do all of the even-numbered slides without breaking into a sweat, and when they finally fixed the other projector, he went right back and did all of the odd-numbered slides. So Jeff Martin, that was a tough act to follow, but I think Dick had you. Professor Woods was voted the outstanding civil engineer of both Ann Arbor branch and the Michigan sections of the American Society of Civil Engineers. He is a registered professional engineer in Michigan and has been a principal in 3 Michigan-based geotechnical consulting firms on a part-time basis while maintaining a full-time faculty appointment. Dr. Woods has served professional organizations in several capacities, including Chair of the Executive Committee of the ASC Geotechnical Engineering Division, President of the United States Universities Council in Geotechnical Engineering Research, President of the Environmental and Engineering Geophysical Society, Systems Director of the National Geotechnical Experimentation Sites. He served as Vice President for North America of the International Society for Soil Mechanics and Geotechnical Engineering. Professor Woods was elected to the National Academy of Engineering in 2003 and made an honorary member of ASCE in 2004. Finally, he became a diplomate of the Academy of Geoprofessionals in 2009. Before our next speaker comes up, Professor Donald Gray, whose career coincided in time with Professor Woods, won't be able to make it today. He's arriving later in the evening, but he asked me to relay some comments and reflections about Dick Woods. And Don writes, "It has been a privilege to be an academic colleague of Dick Woods for many decades at the University of Michigan. His teaching abilities, experimental skills, and professional reputation are exemplary. Dick is also a consummate gentleman. I've never heard him speak in an unkind manner about anyone. I admire Dick's resourcefulness and coolness in the face of challenges and troubles. He's a person you'd like to see in charge when difficulties arise, whether it's as an equipment breakdown in the field or as a lecturer is late for a seminar. Once, while waiting at an airport in Armenia for a return home, Dick was informed that the airplane could not take off because of insufficient funds to pay for the fuel. Dick corralled the other waiting passengers and collected enough money between them to purchase a tank load of aviation fuel so they could leave. Dick has amazing stamina and endurance for frequent journeys all over the globe to attend geotechnical conferences, workshops, and other events in the cause of advancing our understanding of soil dynamics and mechanics. He is indeed a geotechnical hero." Donald Gray. With that, I'm going to invite Ken Stokey for a few words.
needed to prepare so I can make sure I get through this quickly. It's a pleasure to be part of this group honoring Professor Woods as a geotechnical hero. Dick and I met at the University of Michigan in the fall of 1966. I realize that was before many of you were born, but we won't go there. Dick was the wiser and more mature Ph.D. student, and I was the younger incoming master's student. Dick was working with Professor Richard, as Roman mentioned, who was then chair of the Civil Engineering Department. Professor Richard hired me to be one of the worker bees for two different PhD students. One was Dick Woods and one was Vince Drenovich. And I'm sort of proud to say I'm not sure they would have graduated without me, but that's debatable. Okay. Dick's research involved an experimental study to determine the effectiveness of open trenches in screening seismic waves. He conducted both field tests and large-scale laboratory simulations in a big tank that we built. The tank was about 22 feet in diameter and 6 feet deep, just to give you a sense. And he won the Middlebrooks Award, if I'm not mistaken, for that work. Okay. Working with Dick was a lot of fun, and he was a great mentor and teacher. There were, however, a few drawbacks. First, he liked opera, and I liked the Beach Boys and the Beatles. True to his character, Dick was very fair, and he would equally divide time on the radio when we were working in the field or in the lab. And I appreciated that a lot during that time. Second, and a bit more troublesome is the time that we spent in the field locating an acceptable site for his research. We would perform shallow sampling with a portable, gas-powered solid stem auger. You know, the kind two men hold to form the reaction at the ground surface. Of course, Dick had the controls. Well, Dick with a weight of X and Stokey with a weight of a fraction of X at the other end did not make a completely stable system, so that when the auger encountered some impediment and became stuck, yours truly went sailing. He blamed this on his days as a lineman at Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken, and he just didn't mean to overpower me. Okay. Finally, Dick at times, as best I could tell, would revert to his earlier active duty days in the U.S. Marines. Younger worker bees would arrive at the G.G. Brown laboratory to find notes beneath tools that had not been returned to their proper place, advising them of the importance of this procedure. All true. We had a great time together, and many students received wonderful mentoring by Dick. Over the next 40 years, Dick has been a close friend, a colleague, and a mentor. He has been a devoted supporter of the geotechnical engineering profession at national and international levels, and has contributed in numerous ways to advancing our profession. He is an outstanding example of how an engineer and citizen should live his or her life. As a postscript, I should tell you that he is also a soft touch. At times on our earlier travels together, I've run out of cash. And there weren't ATMs then. And I would turn to him and say, "Dad, could you loan me some money?" And he always would. Thank you.
Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Larry Yadley. I am a principal and vice president of Soil and Materials Engineers in Plymouth, Michigan. I appreciate the opportunity of being the last to present for our esteemed colleague, Dick Woods. I think it only fitting that a practitioner try to balance the tribute after two academians came before me. So, I'd like to move on here. I looked up in the dictionary what the definition of a hero is, and it's someone who is admired for outstanding qualities or achievements. Now, we should ask the question, why is Professor Woods a hero? Well, at least from my experience, he's always demonstrated to me that he had a teacher's heart. He's always teaching, conveying knowledge to those he comes in contact with. And he's always learning, and he asks meaningful questions so he can pass that on to others, what he has learned after asking those questions. One of the things that I try to tell our young professionals at our firm is that there's no such thing as a stupid question. But I have to confess that I've asked more than my share of stupid questions, especially to Professor Woods. And even though they may seem to be that way, he always answered them very patiently with me, and also tried to be helpful in looking up references and sending them to me. Again, demonstrating his teacher's heart. He is also one of the kindest people I've ever met. I think it goes without saying the comments that Don Gray made earlier that Roman shared with us, that I've never heard him say any disparaging word about anyone. And for me, I really appreciate the support that he's given me over the years. I understand that he wrote a very kind letter of support for me when I was pursuing the position on getting on the Geo-Institute Board of Governors. And I can't help but believe that that helped to push me over the top. The third thing is that he demonstrates a hard work ethic. I remember that I learned the value of hard work from my father being raised on a farm in Saline, not too far from Ann Arbor. And Dick certainly demonstrated that, as I will share with you in a moment on one of the slides that I'll show you. But I also had students in recent years who were probably young enough to be my own children tell me that they walked by his office at 1:30 in the morning and saw him still working there, reading and learning and researching. Dick, I know that oftentimes you and I kind of chuckled when we've had the opportunity of maybe having some of your students come out and working with us in the field. When they hadn't really had the opportunity of learning what hard work really was. And they would say, "Oh, I never worked so hard before." And we'd look at each other and chuckle. But I think it was a valuable experience for them. You know, it was said that he retired in 2002, and I have to chuckle at that as well, because he doesn't know what the word retirement means. He will never slow down. He's just been an inexhaustible dynamo who's been a great example to me. Well, what else? I think fourthly and finally, he welcomes former students to stay connected to their alma mater. For those of us who are practitioners, I think you can learn valuable lessons from this for three reasons. First, I was able to form long-lasting bonds with his students that came after me. Now, Here, Dick and one of his students were lifting a 140-pound weight on Central Campus at Michigan when we were running some ground motion attenuation tests. You could probably interpret this slide in many ways. One, you could interpret it that the student is struggling to lift this weight while it looks like Dick wasn't breaking a sweat. The other could say that he could be impounding wisdom to the student, the way the student is positioned there. But knowing Dick and his kind spirit, I think we have to dispense with that second thought. Here is Dr. Chang, who is one of Dick's students, and he actually had a chance to work for our firm for a while. So it was a great experience knowing and working with him. We also have another Ph.D. student that worked with me, and he's here at the conference, Nenad Gukunski, who's at Rutgers, helping me doing some integrity testing on some caissons in downtown Detroit. I also had the opportunity of working on some very unique projects as well. And let me just back up for a moment with the students. You know, there are other students that I may not have mentioned, but you know, I think of people like Dennis Hilton, who's out in the crowd that I've had the chance to work with. Mehdi Satara, who is a structural engineer, and I believe Dick was on his PhD team. He is a professor of structural engineering at Virginia Tech. And I've learned that these are really great bonds that I've been able to form over the years, because now I can call on these people because I've worked with them in the past and ask questions and have exchange of information that really has helped me in my career. Well, secondly, in this whole idea of bonding with the university and staying in touch, there are the opportunities to be on the leading edge of technology and innovation. I can still remember the days when Dick and I would be out in freezing cold and seeing how the airlines for our in-hole geophones would freeze up and break on us, and we'd constantly have to repair them. But it was a great experience, and now it's a little bit less troublesome to perform those tests because of those things that we learned as the technology was being developed. The third thing that I'd like to point out is that I've had opportunities to work with him and his students on high-profile projects. And as you can see in the slide here, this is a project that we worked on in downtown Pittsburgh, the light rail transit project with Hayward Baker. And at that time, in 1980, it was the largest chemical grouting job in the United States, and we had an opportunity to run cross-hole tests to evaluate the effectiveness of their grouting operations. And this is just another picture. If you'll notice, the gentleman in the yellow raincoat, that's Paul Bakita. Some of you may know him from Hayward Baker. And then the gentleman right next to him is Amos Sarmad, who is one of Dick's PhD students. There's other projects that I've had an opportunity of working with Dick on, like the superconducting super collider that was being considered in Stockbridge, Michigan, and others. One thing that I reflect upon is a comment that I often hear is that they're joking about grad students as being cheap labor for their professors. And I'm not saying that Dick did this, but I think what we have to realize is that this is a great learning opportunity for students to learn the new technologies and innovations that are being developed, and an opportunity for them to pass this on for the people that they may come into contact in the future. It was one of these experiences you earn while you learn. I've also found that it is a benefit as a consultant to work with the rising and developing stars in soil dynamics, and I've certainly had that opportunity. And I trust that in some small way that I've reciprocated some benefit back to them in their professional development. Well, I have a few final thoughts. Being a part of the University of Michigan family has been a great privilege. Working and growing with Professor Woods' students, it's been profitable, not in terms of dollars, but in terms of knowledge and the friendships and relationships that I've been able to develop with them. And then finally, knowing, working, and learning from Professor Woods. Priceless. Who is a hero? Well, the definition said, someone who is admired for outstanding qualities or achievements. Dick over-defines a hero because he is admired for his outstanding qualities and his achievements. Congratulations, Dick.
It's been hard to recognize. I can't believe that it's my name that was being bandied about as a hero. I think that the organizers of this great Geo-Congress are the heroes who are here and now. None of us makes any mark on our profession without the help of others. And the Geo-Institute and American Society of Civil Engineers offers help in many ways, and help that I have taken advantage of throughout my career. I've had mentors and colleagues, most of whom have also participated to a great degree in ASCE and Geo-Institute and the predecessor of Geo-Institute. I'd like to mention all of them, but I'm afraid that this would invite omissions that I mustn't do. So I just would like to show the connection to ASCE and the Geo-Institute for my heroes. First of all was Bill Richard. He was an ASCE and Soil Mechanics and Foundation Engineering Division member for many years and a leader. I'd like to recognize Leroy Graves, who introduced me to soil mechanics. He was a student of Philip Rutledge. George Young played an important role in turning me into an academic by hiring me at a little place way up in the peninsula in Lake Superior called Michigan Tech. But George Young and Bill Richard had been students of Nathan Newmark. I got a lot of input from the Newmark influence. And then Harry Sachs introduced me to graduate study. And finally, John Folk, who was the president of ASCE, appointed me to my first active position in ASCE, and at that time the Soil Mechanics and Foundations Division. And I'm grateful for his introduction into these great organizations. And certainly my faculty colleagues at the University of Michigan and the practitioners with whom I have worked over the years. Larry showed you a bit of the interaction with practitioners that I have enjoyed throughout my career. The Geo-Institute and its predecessor, Soil Mechanics and Foundations Division, provided a wonderful outlet and learning opportunity for me and for those of my era who were coming up in the soil mechanics tradition. And we can participate in so many different ways. Just as an example, I started out simply as a newsletter editor and then moved on to committee membership and committee chairs. Finally, to the chairman of the board of directors of the Soil Mechanics Foundation Engineering Division, and then eventually to the vice presidency for North America, ISSNGE. And I've observed many friends and colleagues who flourished under their opportunities with the GI and the other ASCE organizations. It's clear that there is a great group of young and mid-level engineers who are taking over and operating the Geo-Institute and doing a wonderful job at it. Now, I think probably that you would believe at this point that a true hero would shut up. And I'll try to do that. We're running a little bit late. Thanks to the GI for many opportunities, and thank you all for attending this presentation. Thank you.
I'm here now with Professor Dick Woods, the hero of the 2012 Geo-Congress. Professor, looking back on your career, can you tell me about one of your proudest achievements? I know there are many.
Well, in geotechnical engineering, anything associated with the name Carl Terzaghi, who was the pioneer in our field, is very coveted. So I'm very proud to have been selected to give the 1997 Terzaghi lecture.
Wow, now you're back as this year's hero. Do you have advice for all the students here today?
It's important for the young students to become well-founded in a particular specialty in geotechnical engineering. I think we have somehow lost the focus on basics. I think we need to get back to that, but you must not ignore the possibilities of contributions from those in other fields, like biology in particular, I'm thinking of, in the work that geotechnical engineers do.
And what do you see as some of the future challenges for your field?
One of the challenges that I think is important is to make the public aware of the contributions that geotechnical engineers make to the infrastructure. The infrastructure is so important to our way of life and our future economy that we must pay attention. And I don't believe that the public is fully aware of what we do. I hope somehow we're able to make that clear to the public in the future.
Thank you, Professor, and congratulations again on today's award.
Thank you very much.